live on the air with the arrests. Starting around 6 o'clock this morning, we saw this unfolding here. We've been live since earlier when we first saw law enforcement on the campus there. So we have several crews, Regina, Alex, and now Kelly Hussedal joining us live there to give us her vantage point. Kelly, first of all, explain where you are and what are you seeing now?
The Target store, which is right where that encampment was for several days. But just to give you some perspective, we're on one side of the barricade. So this is where you see all the protesters here behind me, and several officers are on the other side of this metal barricade. I just passed by them a short time ago. I literally just got here on campus about 5 minutes ago, and I can tell you there are so many officers here, SDPD, campus police, sheriff's deputies as well. So you've got the one set of protesters over here that are chanting, and the police on the other side, dressed in riot gear, prepared for anything that could happen out here. You know, this encampment had been going on for several days. Over the weekend, tensions really started to escalate. You had a pro-Israel rally, and then there was the pro-Palestine encampment. So you kind of felt like tensions were starting to rise over the weekend. And then this morning, officers were called in, the university calling this an unlawful assembly. And this is sort of the result that you're seeing now. So we do know, as you guys have already mentioned, several people were detained and taken away. I passed by a couple of those people in handcuffs or zip ties, whatever you want to call it, as I was walking up here, led by officers. But you can see several students out here right now. I'm sure the concern for officers is that this crowd will continue to grow as the morning goes on. I can tell you, coming up here, it felt like a ghost town because classes are all remote right now. There was no one around except mostly just officers walking in this area. And as I got closer, I could hear the chanting. You got closer, you could see the several emergency vehicles, law enforcement out here. But this is a live scene of what you're looking at right here outside of the Target, Geisel Library, kind of the main drag of campus. This is the result of several days of protesting out here. And we are seeing just police and protesters kind of coming to a head right now. But I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Kelly, thank you for that, giving us the vantage point from the side of where the protesters are lined up. And, you know, Regina's on the other side where the law enforcement officers are, CHP officers. So larger group right here, but as Kelly mentioned, classes are online. So no other students really except for these protesters who are there on campus joining in this cause, in the chanting that we've been hearing throughout the morning, saying peaceful protests. And they're asking, why is law enforcement there? Why are they in riot gear? The school itself has commented on protests in the past, saying they support students' right to protest. They pointed out there was a protest of about 2,000 pro-Palestinian supporters that they were fine with. It was the encampment that, as we just heard from the school, saying they believe that was dangerous to people's health, their safety, and so that's why they wanted that cleared.
Yeah, health, fire, safety, and security, because it was an event that was spanning several days. And again, not a protest like the one that you're seeing now, but a full-on encampment, several tents, several awnings and so forth. Even a medic center had been set up at some point, several food stations and so forth. And so it wasn't clear, though they had said that they wanted to stay there until their demands were met, how much longer they would have stayed if those demands had not been met, so forth. And we did see a large contingency of them who stayed to the very last second, obviously, because they were taken into custody. Now, the number of those arrested, we still don't know. And we still don't know what charges, if any, they could be facing.
One minor injury was reported, as the school mentioned. And as we were watching this live, a few people we saw, you know, down on the ground as officers were putting handcuffs or zip ties on them. And those people were then walked over to another building there across the walkway. So let's send it now over to Regina Yurita. As we mentioned, she's on the side of where law enforcement officers are. And Kelly was on the other side of this fencing that you see put up there. Regina, that fencing is new. Any indication of, you know, anyone trying to cross it, or does it seem fairly peaceful from where you are?
Yeah, Ned, I can tell you that it continues to stay peaceful. Students are obviously behind that fence, continuing to chant. I can tell you that the group that's formed here right in front of the Student Health and Wellness Center continues to grow, really because students who probably don't have classes or thought they had classes have come across this group. They've been talking to their peers and have realized that they cleared up that encampment. So many of them are here showing their support with these students who were protesting in that encampment. So honestly, we're having a fair share. Some students were the ones who cleared out from that encampment as soon as police presence started forming. They walked out and then formed a group here. And then there's been students who just walked in and are supporting them. So right now, it stays peaceful. We haven't seen anything escalate at the moment. It's only chants that are getting louder. They continue to shout, right? Hey ho, police need to go. They continue to question why their presence is here, why there's a police presence, why they're wearing riot gear. That's really one thing that they continue to become frustrated about. They don't understand why the university had to call police and then why police showed up with riot gear if they continue to peacefully you can see right now, right, just to kind of hear what they're shouting, right? I think they're booing at law enforcement. They're continuing to shout. Yeah, they continue to boo. Right now I see that law enforcement has kind of stepped back. They're not so close to that fence or students, but students continue to boo and shout at them. But so far, no contact. Nobody has been taken into custody as far as this group. So we only continue to hear supporters here continue to shout at them, continue to protest and chant, let them go. Of course, from the people who were taken into custody, that's what they're referring to, let them go, because they're still trying to figure out what's going to happen with the people who were taken into custody, were handcuffed, some were zip-tied. Those were students who were sleeping in that encampment, who stayed in that encampment, and police interfered. That's when they cleared up the encampment and also took some of those students into custody. So they're questioning what's going to happen after. But Free Palestine is what they're shouting right now. But that is really the latest. So far, probably 30 minutes ago, campus staff actually put that barrier, that fence between them to keep a distance between law enforcement and students. And that's really helped sort of calm things down. It hasn't really escalated from there. Chris and Netta.
Thank you so much. And again, at one point, remember, we were showing you Alex Lai's live shot where she was showing that recently cleared out encampment. Now this obviously having been unfolded, something that we're keeping a very close eye on.
And, you know, it's interesting to see the different angles, but you see the side of the protesters and then, of course, Regina, where she is a little bit elevated on one of those blocks there along the walkway where you can see that group. And certainly several more rows deep from what we saw earlier. And now look at that. Okay, they're waving goodbye to the officers. They are now leaving, it looks like, at least from where that line is of protesters. And not sure why that is. The decision seems to have been made that they're going to step back. So
it could be as they are backing up here. Yeah, we're going to go back to Regina as they break through this barricade right now. Regina, did you happen to hear or see why this is happening, or is this sort of just unfolding right now, spontaneously?
All right, guys, it seems that police are taking a step back, but you can see students actually tear down that makeshift fence. One of our photographers actually just talked to a police officer. They told us that they can continue to peacefully protest. As long as they continue to peacefully protest, they will let them stand there, continue to stay where they're at. Now that they've cleared up that encampment. That was their biggest concern, to clear up that unlawful encampment is what the police officer stated to our photographer. But they're going to let them continue to peacefully protest. But you can see right now some of the students actually are picking up the gate. It seems that they want to keep things peaceful. That's what I'm assuming that they're trying to say as they're picking up the gate, keeping that distance. And police are actually going to take a step back. They're going to continue to take a step back, not really interfere as long as students peacefully protest. But you can tell that at one point the gates, when they try to open it or they ripped it, kind of threw it on the ground, they got a big concern, but you can tell they're trying to continue to keep things peaceful. So right now, that was their biggest concern as far as police officers trying to clear up that encampment. Now that it's been cleared up, they are going to let students stay as they are right here in this group and continue to peacefully protest if that's what they want. But you can see law enforcement right there still kind of forming a line, hoping that things don't escalate. But so far, students have actually stayed behind that barrier that campus staff actually came by to put themselves sort of this makeshift fence between law enforcement and students. And again, you can hear them chanting again, right? Let them go, let them go. They're referring to the students who were taken into custody earlier today by law enforcement when police officers actually cleared up that encampment, and some of them refused to leave that area. So I'm going to send it back to you, Netta and Chris.
All right, Regina, thank you very much for showing that to us. You see those students even bringing that barricade back and lining up right behind it. For those of you who are just now joining us here on CBS 8 and the CW San Diego, let's get you caught up on what's been happening here. UC San Diego campus, we do know that all morning long we've seen students and protesters being processed and questioned by law enforcement, taken into custody by law enforcement. Our photographers there have seen people being loaded into a shuttle, not sure where they were taken, but that started around the 6 a.m. hour, where we saw many protesters there standing their ground in an encampment. Law enforcement officers said it was time to clear that encampment. The chancellor made that statement yesterday as well. And now that encampment has been cleared. Some left voluntarily, others left by police, escorting them away.
In fact, a large portion of this group are some of the protesters that were able to leave. And Netta, you just mentioned the statement. We're going to bring that up here on your screen here from UCSD. This is the latest information that they have put out here. Again, as you note, several students have been arrested. Classes have moved online. MTS has suspended services in this area. But we're going to go to this to the statement right now from the university. They said at approximately 6 a.m. today, University of California, San Diego Police, CHP, and the San Diego County Sheriff's Department successfully and peacefully dismantled an illegal encampment on the UC San Diego campus.
They went on to say the decision to vacate the site was based on the danger arising from a prolonged event in terms of health, fire, safety, and security. You're seeing part of the statement on your screen right here. One minor injury was reported. No official number of arrests is available at this time. The campus is still an active police operation. Which
we can very clearly see. So again, the big questions, if you're going to be following us here into our midday coverage, that we are still asking, that we are waiting for answers on: how many have been arrested, how many protesters, what they could be facing in terms of charges, and how much longer they expect that there will be this large police presence on campus.
We have multiple crews on this scene. We will stay on top of this. Be sure to stay tuned to our website, cbs8.com, our social media, and we will be back here live for our midday newscast at 11. Thanks for joining us.